Growing pressure on Trump and Republicans to act on gun reform. Trump today praising the courage of police officers who responded to the recent shootings in Dayton and El Paso, but offering no plan to prevent future attacks.
In the darkest moments of danger and despair, God calls the bravest to action. These 11 individuals answered the call. To every one of the heroes we recognize today, thank you and God bless you all.
This coming as Trump again flip-flops on his gun reform stance, retreating from an earlier pledge to act on background checks following lobbying by the NRA and other pro-gun groups. Meanwhile, top Democrats in Congress today joined by the mayor of Dayton, calling on Trump and McConnell to act on background checks. Watch this.
2 people in Washington can make sure the background checks bill passes. Donald Trump and Mitch McConnell.
I'm here on behalf of the citizens of Dayton who called us that night to do something. This is something that can be done, can be fast, and will save lives.
If this bill is not passed, Mitch McConnell and the Republicans in the Senate and the president will have hell to pay.
In a moment, I'll be joined by Nan Whaley, mayor of Dayton, Ohio, who you just heard from. But first, it is not just Democrats upping the heat on Trump. Missouri Senator Roy Blunt, a Republican, telling NBC's Chuck Todd it is time for the president to, quote, step up.
We're not going to vote on bills on the Senate floor that the president's not willing to sign. The president needs to step up here and set some guidelines for what he would do. If the president will let us know what he'd sign if it got on his desk, we'd be much more likely to do that.
All right, with me now is Nan Whaley, mayor of Dayton, Ohio. Mayor Whaley, thank you so much for joining us today. Really appreciate it on this very important topic, as you well know, very personally, to say the least. Why did you decide to go to Washington today?
Well, thank you, Yasmin, for having me on this evening. I think the thing that my community had said on the night of August 4th, the next evening after 9 people were killed in our historic Oregon district, was to do something. And so I came to D.C. to share that message and to call what 270-some mayors have signed bipartisanly on a letter to say we need to pass into the Senate an up or down vote on H.R. 8. It's very easy. We want an up or down vote on background checks, which 90% of Americans agree with. 87% of gun owners in Ohio agree we need universal background checks, and the time is now. We don't want another city to be like Dayton.
You heard Senator Schumer there, as I just played, saying this is on 2 people. This is on President Trump. This is on Mitch McConnell. You said this can be done. It can be done quickly, and it can save lives. How optimistic are you, Mayor, that something can actually be done, that there can be gun reform?
Well, look, as a mayor, you have to stay optimistic. You're optimistic for the future of your community and optimistic for the future of the country. So we, as mayors, are hoping that Donald Trump and Mitch McConnell follow what 9 out of 10 Americans agree with, something I don't even know anything that is more popular, and just have the vote. We aren't going to stop. Mayors across the country, we know that if they don't, we'll continue to see senseless gun violence in our communities. And so there will be another city and another city and another city, and we'll be back here calling for background checks and common sense gun legislation.
Look, I just played this sound from Roy Blunt basically saying it's time for the president to step up. You talked about that poll, which I actually want to bring up once again. 89% of all Americans overwhelmingly supporting expanded gun background checks. You think about the shooting most recently in Odessa, Texas, which, in fact, if there were extensive background checks in place, it would have prevented that shooter from actually obtaining those guns that killed all those people between Midland and Odessa, Texas. Why aren't GOP leaders here, Mayor, stepping up?
Well, I can only assume that it's that they care more about what gun makers think and protecting gun makers than protecting innocent American lives, and that saddens me. But I know there are profiles and courage in that Senate, and if McConnell will just let an up or down vote happen, we could put this all to bed and the president could sign it. I mean, this isn't very hard. This is popular, and it's unpopular in places where Republicans win as well. So this isn't just a place like in urban communities where it matters. We're seeing it matter in suburban areas because we know these massacres can hit anywhere, you know, from synagogues and mosques and churches to shopping malls and movie theaters to great trendy neighborhoods like the District. Nobody is safe if we don't start moving on common sense gun legislation.
Mayor, quickly, are you worried that the momentum surrounding gun reform legislation will slow with the election just around the corner?
Look, unfortunately, Yasmin, I don't think it will ever slow because we've seen so many mass shootings this year. Dayton was number 250, I think, and we were August 4th. Now it's September 8th or 9th, right? And we're at like number 289. So the number of mass shootings just keeps piling up and piling up so much that you can't even cover them all nationally. You only hear of the really large ones that are really outlandish.
That's true.
But we have mass shootings every day in this country. So that means in another community and another community, this is hitting. So there is no slowing up of this issue. And the sooner the Senate can do something and Washington can do something and act on something that is not partisan in any other part of the country except on Capitol Hill, I think Americans would reward that sort of leadership.
Yeah, it is completely true. The number of mass shootings in this country on a daily basis, it is completely astounding, and we cannot keep up with the cycle of them. I appreciate your passion and your dedication to this issue. Mayor Nan Whaley, thank you so much.
Thank you, Yasmin.
Hey, I'm Ari Melber from MSNBC. You can see more of our videos right here, or better yet, subscribe to our YouTube channel below. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us, and we appreciate that.